What do you do when the men you trusted to guard the throne become the very demons trying to destroy your home? The 13 elders of the land of the Golden Crown didn't just make a mistake, they ran a secret, wicked operation to bury Queen Naomi alive while she was still breathing. We have just discovered the honey poison strategy they used to turn the Golden King against his own wife. But wait, until you hear their punishment. It's not just about losing titles, it is about being erased from existence. Is it possible for a man to be alive but treated like a ghost in his own land? The highest council has finally exposed how these 13 elders used isolation, intercepted messages, and fake traditional advice to push Queen Naomi out. They didn't want her gone because she was bad. They wanted her gone because she made the Golden King too strong to control. A short prayer for you. May every secret meeting held to monitor your life and plot your downfall be scattered by fire. Just as the Queen's innocence was revealed, may your hidden enemies be erased from your future in Jesus' name. Amen. Welcome to the Royal Circle of Crown Gists. If you want the truth that the palace walls are trying to hide, you are in the right place. To all my Crown Gist friends and families, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now to stay updated on every royal secret. The wind blowing through the land of the Golden Crown today is carrying a message of total restoration and terrifying judgment. To all my Crown Gist friends and families, you need to settle down and listen very carefully because what I am about to tell you will change the way you look at palace drama forever. For 3 long years, we have been watching this back and forth between the palace and the public, but today, the game has finally ended. The truth has arrived and it didn't come to settle, it came to destroy the liars. When we first heard that the 13 elders were stripped of their titles, many of us thought it was a small thing. We thought, okay, they are no longer chiefs, they will just stay in their houses. But Kai, the updates coming out of the council now show that their punishment is a living nightmare. It is a punishment that makes you wonder if it is better to be dead than to be alive and facing such disgrace. These men are currently facing what the elders call the Great Erasure. But before we look at their shame, we must first look at the depth of their wickedness. The investigation by the highest council has revealed that what happened to Queen Naomi was not an accident, it was not a misunderstanding of culture, it was a deliberate, highly coordinated and evil strategy to break the spirit of an innocent woman. These 13 elders sat in dark rooms and planned how to rein in woman just so they could have their hands on the remote control of the Golden King. You see, Queen Naomi entered the palace with a clean heart. She didn't come to fight for power. She didn't come to compete for who has the most influence. She came as a wife, a partner, and a mother. She believed in the sanctity of the home. But what she didn't know was that these elders had already marked her as an enemy before she even finished her first meal in the palace. Why? Because they saw that the Golden King was changing. When Queen Naomi was around, the king was calmer. He was firmer. He was thinking clearly with his own head. To these elders, a king who thinks for himself is a king who cannot be manipulated. They liked it better when the king was stressed, confused, and dependent on their whispered counsel. So they decided that for them to rule the land of the Golden Crown through the king, the jewel had to be removed. The first phase of their wicked plan was isolation. They started quietly. They didn't attack her openly. Instead, they began to cut her off. They ensured that messages sent from Queen Naomi to the Golden King never reached him. They told her the king was too busy, while they told the king she hadn't reached out. They intercepted letters, delayed information, and ensured that the king was always getting an incomplete picture of his wife's life. Then came the honey poison. This is the part that hurt the most. They would wait until the king was tired, perhaps after a long day of dealing with the wahala of the kingdom. In that moment of exhaustion, they would sit with him and plant suspicion like a seed. They didn't use harsh words, no, they used honey. They would say, Kabiesi, we love you. We are only telling you this to protect the throne. We are worried about the way the queen is acting. They framed their manipulation as protection of tradition. They selectively quoted ancient customs to make it seem as if her presence was causing a spiritual imbalance in the land. But they didn't stop there. They went outside the palace and began to spread stories. They used secret channels to tell the public that Queen Naomi was stubborn and disrespectful. They said she wanted to control the throne and that she was too small for such a massive responsibility. They planted observers, women who would visit her, smile with her and eat her food,
only to go back at night and report every move to the 13 elders. Even her tears were weaponized against her. If she cried because of the pressure, they reported it going king that she was using emotional strategy to manipulate him. If she stayed quiet to avoid trouble, they reported it as silent rebellion. There was no way for her to win. They engineered constant tension and ensured that every small misunderstanding was multiplied by 10. They wanted her to have an emotional breakdown because they knew a tired and broken woman is easier to label as difficult or mad. This psychological warfare lasted for years. They shut the doors of justice against her. When she sought the elder to intervene fairly, those 13 men, the very ones she should have trusted, shut the doors in her face. They told her to have patience while they were secretly sharpening the knife to cut her off completely. They orchestrated her removal not with one big event, but with 1,000 small stabs to her heart until living in a palace became a struggle for survival. While she was gone, these elders celebrated. They thought they had won. They thought the golden king would return to their pockets. But they forgot one thing. The truth is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it forever. The revolution of Olori's shadow acted like a giant light that shone into the dark corners where they were hiding. It exposed the reporting lines, the secret meetings, and the deliberate planning. It showed the council that Queen Naomi was not just a victim of circumstance, she was a target of a high-level conspiracy. The judgment of the highest council was based on cold facts, timelines, and math accounts. And now, these 13 elders are learning that the land of the golden crown does not play when it comes to the honor of its crown. Their names have been erased from the records of the council. They are no longer recognized as having ever held power. But the social punishment, that is what is currently shaking the land.
To my crown these friends and families, make we reason this matter well. You see this punishment we the highest council give these 13 elders? It is not just about taking their beads or their staff of office. No. What is happening now in the land of the golden crown is what our people call living both dead. The elders have been served with a total social blackout. The council sat down and looked at the records. They saw how these men used observers, wicked women who acted like friends to Queen Naomi just to monitor her breathing. They saw how these men would gather in the middle of the night to discuss how to make a queen cry. Because of this, the judgment was clear. Since you tried to erase the joy of the king's house, we will erase your existence from the face of this land. The first part of this social death is the silence. Do you know that as I am talking to you now, it is a crime in the land of the golden crown for any musician, any drummer, or even a local chanter to mention the names of any of these 18 elders? In our culture, praise singing is how a man's name stays alive. But the council has banned their names. If a drummer is at a party and one of these disgraced elders walks in, the drummer must stop immediately. If he mentions their name in a song, even if it is to praise them, that drummer will face the wrath of the palace. They have been stripped of the right to be celebrated. But it goes deeper than music. To my crown these friends and families, imagine being a big man in a community for years, and suddenly you are told you cannot attend a single public gathering. The council has banned these 13 men from every communal space. They cannot attend burials, whether it is the burial of a royal person or just a commoner. They cannot step foot into weddings. They cannot attend naming ceremonies. Even the annual festivals that bring the whole of Crown land together are now forbidden territory for them. The elders are now socially untouchable. People are allowed to greet them privately in their houses out of human pity, but once it is a public space, they do not exist. If any of these 13 men tries to show their face at a communal ceremony, the elders of the land have ordered that the ceremony must stop immediately. They said their presence pollutes the space. Can you imagine the heavy shame? A man who used to sit at the high table is now a person whose presence can stop a whole party because people see him as a working class. The council said that during major traditional rites, these men must stay indoors. When the public processions are passing through the streets, they must disappear.
They have become ghosts in a land where they once walked like giants. Why? Because they used their power to plant observers around Queen Naomi. They used their influence to intercept her messages and twist the truth. They selectively quoted tradition to ruin her. So now, tradition has been used to bury them while they are still walking. The most painful part of this update is the effect on their children. People are asking, what will happen to the sons and daughters of these 13 men? In the land of the golden crown, your father's name is your identity, but these men have left a legacy of the great erasure for their children. Their names will not be found in the council history books. Future generations will never read about them as decision makers. They have been deleted from the memory of the throne. The golden king himself is carrying his own heavy wounds. The investigation showed him clearly that the men he honored as his fathers were the ones stabbing him in the back. He realized that while he was stressing over the wahala of the kingdom, these elders were busy timing his exhaustion just to drop poison about Queen Naomi. He now knows that an innocent woman, his wife, the mother of his child, was made to pay the price for their greedy power games. This is why the land is celebrating today. It is not because people love to see old men suffer, but because a line has been drawn. For too long, people thought they could use tradition to hide wickedness. But the Igbimo Agbada and the highest council have shown that no matter how long a lie travels, the truth has a way of catching up and demanding a very heavy payment.
The silence inside the palace of the land of the golden crown is no longer the silence of tension, but the silence of a deep, painful realization. To all my crown gist friends and families, if you think you have seen it all, you need to listen to how the golden king is reacting to this total explosion. Reports say the king has spent hours in his inner chamber with Dr. Elizabeth, looking through the evidence of how his trust was handled like a plaything by the 13 elders. The investigation showed that these men didn't just want Queen Naomi out, they wanted her to lose her mind. They were monitoring her heartbeat through those observers they planted. They knew when she was weak, they knew when she was praying, and they knew exactly when to strike her with a new lie. Dr. Elizabeth, who has been a pillar of support during this medical and emotional cleanup, reportedly told the king that the damage done to the jewel was not just a palace move, it was a coordinated attempt to commit a soul murder. To my crown gist friends and families, imagine the pain of the king. This is a man who was raised to respect these elders. He saw them as the keepers of the ancient wisdom of the land of the golden crown. But the files showed that these fathers were actually the architects of his loneliness. They ensured that every time he reached out for his wife, there was a wall of tradition built by them to block his hand. They made him feel that loving Queen Naomi was a sin against his ancestors. Can you imagine the heavy wahala of a man realizing his life was a script written by 13 wicked men? The council revealed that even the food Queen Naomi ate was sometimes used as a tool of psychological torture. They would delay her supplies or make her feel like she was a burden on the palace resources, while they were secretly enriching themselves from the same throne. They wanted her to feel small. They wanted her to feel like an intruder in her own home. And through it all, she remained quiet. She endured the cold shoulders and the engineered misunderstandings without calling for a war. But look at God. The elders thought that by removing the king, the golden king would fall back into their pockets. They thought he would become a puppet king they could push around. They didn't know that the jewel had already planted a seed of strength in him that would eventually grow and crush them. The truth came out through the most unexpected way, the revolution of Olorishado. As Olorishado was fighting her own battle, she accidentally exposed the reporting lines. The council found the secret channels these 13 elders used to send their false reports about the queen. They found the names of the women who acted as palace spies. They found the poison honey messages. Everything that was done in the dark has been dragged into the bright sunlight of the land of the golden crown.
The elders are now begging. Some of them are reportedly sending their wives and children to go and knock on the doors of the highest council members at night, crying for mercy. They are realizing that being erased is worse than being executed. In our land, if a man dies, we sing his name, we remember his deeds. But for these 13, the council has ordered that they must be forgotten while they are still eating and drinking. No one is allowed to use their titles. No one is allowed to invite them to any royal or communal function. If you see them on the road, you are only allowed to greet them as common men, not as chiefs. The power they use to torment Queen Naomi has become the very fire that is burning their legacy to ashes. The Golden King is finally seeing the faces of his real enemies, and the sight is making him stronger. The land is finally breathing, but the final judgment is yet to be fully felt.
To all my Crown Gist friends and families, we have reached the final part of this heavy update, and the weight of the matter is enough to make a person sit down and reflect. As we speak, the land of the Golden Crown is witnessing a scene that many people never believed was possible. The 13 elders, men who once walked with their heads high, are now living in the shadows of their own homes. The investigation has officially closed, and the findings have left a permanent scar on the history of the palace. The council confirmed that Queen Naomi did not just leave because of a small misunderstanding. She left because she was pushed by a coordinated, invisible hand. The elders ensured that her environment was toxic, and they manipulated the Golden King to believe that his wife's presence was a threat to the ancient throne. But now that the truth is out, the king is faced with the hardest part of the journey, the wound of betrayal by those he called fathers. Dr. Elizabeth has been working closely with the palace to ensure that the emotional health of the throne is restored. But even with all the support, the realization that an innocent woman was made to suffer for years because of power games is a bitter pill to swallow. The Golden King now knows that every advice given by those 13 elders was a step towards his own isolation. They wanted him alone so they could be his only source of truth. The elders' families are in a state of mourning even though nobody has died. They are crying because they know the social death penalty is generational. In the land of the Golden Crown, if your father's name is erased from the songs of the land, your children's children will feel the shame. No musician will praise them, no festival will welcome them, and no royal gathering will acknowledge their existence. They have been deleted from the cultural memory of the land. The jewel, Queen Naomi, has been acknowledged as a woman of extreme strength. The land now sees her not as a victim, but as a survivor who endured what would have broken 1,000 other women. The Golden King is standing firm, but the palace is different now. The walls have been washed clean of the poisoned honey, and the observers have been sent away in disgrace. The 13 elders are left with nothing but their memories and the silence of a kingdom that has chosen to forget them. Wait, my Crown Gist friends and families, I must give you this very important notice before we end today's gist. Everything we have shared in this story, the 13 elders' punishment, the secret plans to destroy Queen Naomi, the social death penalty, and even the reports of the Golden King's inner chamber discussions are all alleged reports and unverified information making the rounds on social media. You must treat all of this as social media rumors and not as confirmed official facts. We're bringing you the update exactly as they are being discussed in the digital streets and palace corners. But until the palace of the land of the Golden Crown makes a formal announcement, please see this information as unverified and alleged. We are just keeping you informed on what the gist world is saying. What do you think about this social death punishment? Is it too harsh, or is it exactly what those elders deserve for trying to ruin an innocent woman's life? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.